Guys, the Mavs season is indeed over, ending in 5 games. The gentleman's sweep from a ridiculous Celtics team. Just to start things off, your top-down view of what we saw from the Mavs in this postseason and in that finals run. Sean, I'll come to you first. What is your biggest takeaway from the Mavs playoff run?
Well, Luka took it to the next level and got his team to a finals for the first time. I think that's the biggest takeaway. And golly, the run, if you just look back at the trade deadline, this team was fighting in the play-in, and then they galvanized, get better with their new starting lineup. And, you know, sometimes you just run into history. The Boston Celtics went 16-3 in the postseason. Out of 101 games this year, they won 80 of them. And, you know, sometimes the better team wins, and at least the Mavericks had one moment in front of their home crowd in Game 4 with a blowout win. So the future is bright, and the arrow is still pointing up for the Mavericks.
How about for you, Michelle?
Yeah, a lot of what Sean just touched on. I mean, Boston was supposed to win, and they did. I think one of the biggest things that we can take away for the Mavericks is that you have this young core of guys who are okay with being role players. Obviously, Kyrie and Luka are going to do their thing. Kyrie obviously wasn't anything close to what we expected him to be in that series against Boston, but throughout the other 3 series, he looked pretty good. So you think about the fact that they have kind of put this team together around those two, and they're okay with being not the guy. You don't always get that in the NBA. I think those are some things that we can really take from this series and really just the postseason overall and move forward with.
I think I'm going to be the villain of this segment here and say this almost feels like a missed opportunity in some circumstances. Now, I realize the run that they went on was improbable and all that, but they also had the best record in the NBA after the trade deadline. This team was built to make this run and face the talent that they did. The difference is we always like to look forward and think, hey, they're going to get back there. They're going to have another shot at this. Dirk only had 2 cracks at this. He only had 06 and 11, and the West was tough that entire time. Nobody in the West is going anywhere, and now the teams have a chance to use the offseason to build their teams around what Dallas threw at them. My question is, how do the Mavs not only get better, but kind of anticipate heading into this season with expectations in a way that they didn't have them last year?
So 2 things, and there's going to be a subset of Dallas that hates this comment, but I'm sorry, it's true. Dirk is not Luka.
I agree.
He's not. I'm sorry. Luka's in a different stratosphere. Dirk was awesome. Dirk is a all-time great. Luka has, at the very least, potential to be a complete level up from what Dirk Nowitzki's career was here in Dallas. And I think for that reason, you do have a team that should expect to be back at this stage, even if it's not next season. This should become the norm for this franchise to make deep playoff runs, to be a regular threat, to get to the NBA Finals and win championships if Luka Doncic is your figurehead that leads this whole thing. Yes, they need to get better. Clearly, this team wasn't good enough to win a championship. I think they did run into a almost historically good Celtics team that kind of feels, to me, the comp is the 2014 Spurs team that moved the ball so well and shot the 3 so well. It feels like there's similarities.
It might be a little overstating. I viewed them a little bit more along the Pistons side of things, at least the 04 Pistons. And we don't know necessarily how this is going to shake out long term, whether they're going to win a couple more and establish themselves as that kind of team in the early 2010s. Sean, I'm curious from the core perspective, because obviously a bunch of new faces got influxed earlier in this year. It's different coming in and changing the vibe, but now you are the vibe. What do you think about this core moving forward?
I think the core is great. You already have your backcourt set, at least for the duration of Kyrie's contract, and you have figured out your big situation. Now it's just adding little pieces around the edge, and Nico Harrison, to his credit, has done a great job of that. Obviously, maybe shedding the Tim Hardaway Jr. money to, I don't know, maybe give Derrick Jones Jr. the mid-level this summer and maybe go get another 3-and-D guy. I'm not quite sure how that's going to shake out, but as far as the core of this team, having this playoff run is great. Having an experience to go all the way to the finals and feel that pressure on the national stage will only help down the road. And to go back to your point about Boston, people got to remember Boston has played in the conference finals in the East 6 out of the last 8 years. They finally got over the hump this year, and I feel like the Mavericks could be in that position. The problem is the West is very deep, and you've already seen an Oklahoma City team who the Mavericks beat in the second round. They've already gone out and made a trade to try to look a little bit more like Boston, getting another perimeter defender and spot-up shooter in Caruso.
Michelle, get back in here. You got the final word.
Speaking of the Thunder, guys, I mean, yeah, they're going to be a formidable team going forward. And you mentioned it earlier, the West is not getting any easier, but I think that the Mavericks are going to get better. I know this was cliche coming out of Nico Harrison in his wrap-up press conference saying everyone's going to come back 10 to 15% better. But when you have a postseason that was as challenging and as long as this was for the Mavs, they're going to take things from that. Good, bad, a lot more bad, especially there towards the end. But they're going to use that experience. They're going to come back better. And like you said, they're pretty much locked in on 7 to 8 guys. That's your starting 5. That's 2 guys off your bench. I think this is a group that they can really learn with, gain experience with, and hopefully win a championship with. Goal
number 1 for this crew is get Luka a home playoff series. Every single playoff series he's played has been on the road. If they can start at home in the AAC, we'll see how things really shake out. Either way, that's our Mavs content. When we come back, we're talking Rangers. Stay with us in the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
Mad Max is back. Scherzer's 5-inning start helps the Rangers take down the Royals 4-0, earning their 4th straight win. There will be a Game 3. Texas A&M fell to Tennessee 4-1 in Game 2 of the College World Series. The title will be decided Monday at 6 p.m. And the U.S. men's national team takes down Bolivia in the Copa America 2-0 at AT&T Stadium.
So coming off of your headlines and Max Scherzer's rather impressive return to the starting lineup for the Texas Rangers today, 5 innings, gave up just the 1 hit, did not give up a run, struck out 4. Welcome back indeed. There's something kind of percolating with this Rangers team finally as we round out this month of June.
Yeah, it's great to get Scherzer back, but more importantly, this pitching staff has been pretty remarkable, especially over the last few games. Sean, I'm curious from your perspective, what have you seen from the Rangers, at least since the Dodgers series? I think is really when they took a lot of people's attention.
Yeah, the pitching's been really solid. I know they've dealt with a lot of injuries for pretty much the duration of the season, but the rotation hasn't been the problem. You know, the bullpen can be spotty at times, but when you're having an offense that won that Dodger series by only scoring 3 runs, things were still a little tough. But here in this Kansas City series this past week, and you finally saw some more crooked numbers. And really, that's the key to getting back in the West Division race or the wild card race this summer. This offense simply has to be better. I mean, obviously, you can call it a bit of a World Series hangover, but point is, Adolis Garcia has not been the same player he was last October and early in November. And you had Nathaniel Lowe regress, and Wyatt Langford's had his struggles as a rookie. He's starting to come on. Carter's been hurt. So you're having a bunch of guys who aren't hitting the ball as well as they can, but once they figure that out, this thing could be a playoff team again. Problem is, they might have dug themselves too deep of a hole.
They did dig themselves quite a hole. Your point, though, about Wyatt Langford leads us to our next point. Michelle, I want you to jump in here because Langford has really come on over the course of this month of June. Look up his numbers earlier today. He's batting .310 in the month of June. He's slugging .552. He's got an OPS of, if I'm remembering right, like 880 something. All of those numbers would have him for a season-long stretch in the top 10 to 12 in the league in all of those categories. He's kind of finally starting to find it, and that's really helped, at least in the last week or so, this Rangers offense start to produce a little more.
I think exactly 365 days ago, Wyatt Langford was playing in Omaha in the World Series.
Yeah.
And now he's doing what he's been doing, the stats you just spit out, at the major league level. I don't think it can be overstated how impressive that is for how young he is. Wyatt Langford is the spark that this team needs. I mean, I think if you look at the Rangers season up to this point, it can be summed up by 2 things: injury bug. If you look at the Rangers transactions page on the internet, it is like 15-day IL, 60-day IL. I mean, they have been bit by the injury bug up and down the rotation and the lineup. And you have guys like Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford that are young that you're counting on. And so it's a lot of pressure on those young guys. I think Bruce Bochy said it best. He kept telling Wyatt that the home runs were going to come. We knew he had the skill set. We just had to give him the time and the at-bats to kind of get there. Now that he's done it, we've seen what he's capable of. A grand slam. I think I saw the other day he's the only player in MLB this season to have an inside the park home run and a grand slam in 2024. Not too bad, if you ask me, guys.
Well, and the inside the Parker is really indicative of how he plays, which is balls to the wall the entire way through, beating out runs the first. I mean, his batting average would not be what it is if he did not have the legs to pull it across, Mike.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this is a guy that the comparison that was made as he was coming up through his time at Florida, his brief stint in the minors, was, hey, this guy's a Mike Trout starter set. That's a mouthful and a half.
Yeah.
And just in the last month, now we're starting to see that start to come to fruition. If that can actually continue, if that can become reality for Wyatt Langford, which is a lot to ask of a kid that is as young as he is, but it seems like he's working in that direction. If they can get Evan Carter back, if Adolis Garcia can wake up from his 3-month-long slumber, plus the pitching that we're seeing, it feels like there's potential anyway for this team to turn the corner.
Sean, I'm also curious from your perspective, who else on this roster has really kind of kept this thing afloat? Because my mind first goes to Josh Smith, who came in basically for Josh Young after he got injured and has been every bit the bat that you would want in that lineup. I know we like to think that Young's offense is going to come back and buoy it, but Smith has got to stay in the lineup the way he's hitting.
Yeah, Smith is going to have to DH or play some left field once Josh Young gets back, presumably this week. And I mean, heck, the guy's a borderline all-star. Now, I know the third base position where that's where he's trying to get voted in. That's a tough nut to crack, but I think he should definitely be a reserve for the Midsummer Classic, especially with it being here in the hometown. His new batting stance has unlocked something. He now is hitting for a little bit more power. The bat speed is back to what it was when Texas traded for him, the Joey Gallo trade a few years ago with New York. But I look at up and down the lineup, and there hasn't been too many, standouts other than the top two, Simeon and Seager. I mean, Seager had a monster month of May after a really slow April. I think here of late, especially today, in fact, to see Leody Taveras put the bat on the ball and use his athleticism. Obviously, he's a plus defender in center field, but if you can get the number 9 hitter to be somewhat consistent and you get Young back and you have the top of the lineup do what they're doing, and if somebody, be it Langford, be it Adolis Garcia, be it Young, somebody in the middle of that order can really, carry the mail, this is going to be a fun summer.
I would
We've
say
got about a minute left, real quick. 6.5 games back of Seattle right now. 3 weeks from today is the All-Star break. What does success look like between here and there? How close do you think the Rangers need to get to Seattle between now and July 13th?
Pretty darn close. I think that you look at the fact that they're that far out of the wild card race. They have a lot of ground to make up. Not saying they can't do it, but they're going to need both the rotation to come back and do what they've done the last 2 nights. And then they're going to need this offense to continue to put up runs in a way that we haven't seen them do consistently through these first several months of the season.
And now you have to be 500 and you have to be within shouting distance because, Seattle's GM, Jerry DiPoto, he makes trades like bodily functions at times. He's going to go get 2 more bats for that lineup.
I hear you on that one.
It's going to be hard. We've got to leave it there, but when we come back, we're going to do our no fence riding segment. I know Andrew is looking forward to one question in particular.
I've been waiting all week for this. Stay with us on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
And now it's time for No Fence Riding, sponsored by the Fort Worth Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Time now for everyone's favorite game, no fence riding. The concept is simple. As usual, I have 2 statements for our panel. It's up to them to pick which side of the fence they're on, either positive or negative. And it's time to return to an old question that Mike and I have been debating on and off for the last few weeks. Our first statement: this is the best year in Dallas sports history. Now, before I open this up to the rest of the panel, we need to get a little more nuanced here. I'll set some stats. We'll start with this one. There have only been 8 titles in DFW's professional sports history, which means there's only 7 years, I feel like, that are up for debate in this question. The rest of it is up to you guys. Is there anything you think stands up to this? Because I can think of 2 years, and I think this year wipes the floor with them, Mike.
I now think the answer is yes. I think when you asked this question in the first round and we hadn't seen the Mavs or Stars do anything
wasn't even the first
yet,
round.
It was the first. Have we not
it
even
was
started
right
the first
It
round?
was right before the first round.
Oh, good Lord.
All right, fine. We'll get into that. Sean, what's your
The
first
argument
thought?
back then was simple.
Fine.
The Cowboys' 5 championships in this town, they matter more than any of the other teams. They were way above any of those other years. Now, with a championship and the other 3 teams,
we already had the
certainly 2 of
championship
them
when we had the discussion last time. Is my point.
That.
Yes.
I know that, but now you've had the Mavs go to the finals and the Stars go to the West Final. Now, I'm with you.
Okay, Sean, what do you think?
I think this is the best year just because you had both tenants of the American Airlines Center go to the conference final for the first time in the same year ever. You're on the heels of the World Series, which I will argue in some ways, maybe not always, but in some ways is more outstanding and rare than a Cowboys Super Bowl championship. And keep in mind the Cowboys did win a dozen games and they flamed out in the playoffs, but a playoff year is always a good year no matter what.
Michelle, your thoughts? You've only been here for a little bit, but I'm curious what you were thinking.
Well, I would just like to start with this is not necessarily everyone's favorite concept, but it's fine. I'm, by definition, a fence rider. I stay right down the middle. Is it the best year in Dallas sports? Yeah, because I'm here to watch it all happen.
That's the best possible
Welcome
answer.
to town,
Michelle.
That's the best possible answer we get. I did not expect 3 yeses on this panel, but I'm still going to roll down the stats for you anyway. This is the first time since 2016 and only the second time ever that all 4 of the primary 4 sports teams, the Cowboys, Stars, Mavericks, and Rangers, all made the playoffs. In 2016, the only team to make it to the second round was the Stars. The rest of this, I think, kind of speaks for itself, but when you factor in not only the playoff runs, but the drama of a lot of those runs, the Mavs wins in Game 6, the Stars winning late that night to clinch it for both teams. There was so much that went into it, and of course the magic of the Rangers won. I understand that everyone wants to put the Cowboys on a pedestal, but there is something about that first win, that first championship for a franchise that makes a significant difference and at least elevates it to the stratosphere of a Cowboys back-to-back title.
So and honestly, the only year that comes close in my mind was 2011, simply because the Mavericks and Dirk won his title, and we saw the Rangers, we know how Game 6 went in St. Louis, but that was also a magical
They at least
summer.
went.
Right. Now,
well, and that year you also had the Super Bowl here in
Yes.
town, so that elevates that year. The problem with any of the Cowboys' 5 Super Bowls, nobody else did anything. Two of the teams didn't even exist for almost all of them.
Right.
The Rangers were terrible forever. The Mavs were terrible for most of that stretch.
Can I jump in here real quick?
93,
on the Mavs,
the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl and adding the Stars, that's
Fair.
a decent contender, but I think 11 is the other real contender.
Right. The Mavs specifically, in 92 and 93 when the Cowboys went back-to-back, the Cowboys won more games than both of those seasons combined.
Yeah.
The Mavs had
they
11
did.
wins and 13 wins in back-to-back years out of an 82-game schedule. So,
Yeah.
I know we're not talking negatives in this kind of conversation, but at the same time, that has to be a huge detriment if you're talking about it as sum total. So when I looked at this about 2 months ago when the playoffs started, you had the best season in Rangers history. And I'm including all professional sports here. The best season in Wings history. All 4 teams made the playoffs. FC Dallas made the playoffs. I mean, it was already up there as far as top 3.
It was
no questions asked.
up there.
Right.
It just wasn't a yes
Now,
then.
but-
It is now.
But here's the thing. A lot of the things that happened in the regular season, for instance, all the Rangers in the All-Star game being on the field at the same time, Luka's 73, bring me to this next topic, which is the cornerstone of my initial argument. Fans do not value regular season accomplishments enough. And I will start this with an observation that I made because everyone likes to point to football as the be-all and end-all. I went back and checked the NFL Top 100 rankings for top 100 plays and top 100 games. How many of the plays in the top 100 do you guys think, and I'll go down the line here really quick, how many of the top 100 plays were from the regular season versus the playoffs? Mike, we'll start with you. Out of 100.
30 and 70.
Okay. Sean, what do you think?
Well, no, there's not enough games for that to be
I
the
would
case.
say it's like
45,
25%
55.
regular season probably.
Okay, 25% regular season. Michelle, what do you think?
I was going to go 30%, 30-70 split.
Okay, in the top 100 plays, 49 of them were from the regular season.
Okay, so my second guess of 45-55 was a lot closer.
Fair. And in terms of the games themselves, they took up 25% of it. So that's more closer to what you guys are talking about. But game versus play kind of brings me to my central argument, which is the regular season accomplishments, things that happen in there do matter. We're going to look back on this Mavs run, and there have been some great moments in the playoffs, but Luka's 73, everyone's going to remember Kyrie's buzzer beater against the Nuggets, and 20 years down the line, we're going to look at it and think, that's right, that wasn't actually a playoff series. Sean, what do you think of this?
I mean, just go to the Mavericks. We had a game where they set a franchise record for dunks against Utah. I mean, there was plenty of great moments. The Stars had a lot of dramatic moments in their regular season, too. And as far as, like what I was saying a few minutes ago, I think every season that results in going to the postseason, no matter what heartbreak or failure you have in the postseason, a regular season that ends in the playoffs is good. bottom line, period. And I feel like going back to the Cowboys flame out, 12 wins is still 12 wins. I don't think Mike McCarthy should have, lost his job for what happened against Green Bay. I took a lot of flack for saying that on the air the Monday after it happened. But playoff years are good years. And if we keep building up playoff years in this town, we're going to have a stretch maybe like Boston had a few years ago if things fall right.
We got to wrap it up here, but I will say this real quick to wrap things. The answer to your question is yes, because otherwise you'd be rather devoid of joy in this town.
100%.
Rangers finally got there and got one, but do you want to just be sad all the time? We'll be right back.
This is the definition of a quick wrap.
Thanks to our guests, our panel. Fantastic as always.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Time now for Mike's Final Take.
Luka Doncic has been discussed ad nauseum over the course of this playoff run, and for good reason, positive and negative. He did a lot of things that created some good conversation about him, and he also did a number of things that made people question him on the basketball court. I've heard a lot of people say he needs to play better defense, he needs to get in better shape, he needs to stop chirping at the officials. Cool. I'm good with all those things. You've listed the 3 negatives of his game. I don't know what else there is. And if you want to just focus on that and ignore the fact that he's a nightly threat to go off for 42, 13, and 12, be my guest. He's the reason that the Mavs got to the NBA Finals. He's the reason they have a chance to go back over the course of the next several years. Yeah, he needs to refine himself a little bit. He just led him to the finals. What else do you want?
So when we post this, are you going to tag the former Philadelphia Eagles running back, or how do you want to approach this?
I've already played that game once. We don't need to go down that path again. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
This has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.